All right, here we go. Another short video, short-ish. That's going to be about the changes in KK modding tools that I have done with what I call 1.1.0 version number. I mean, the original KK modding tools didn't have any actual releases, so I'm just kind of pretending that's 1.0, and then mine is 1.1.0. Oh yeah. The first thing we're going to talk about is the changes on the close component. As mentioned in the previous video, this is very important for if you want the maximum end user compatibility version of the close component, aka the version of the close component that comes with the original game. Then you want the main branch on my on my GitHub page, and that's what I submitted to get updated into the main GitHub page of KK modding tools. But if you want the darkness version of the KK, or I mean of the close component with rendnormal 3 and a couple other things, then you need the darkness branch on my KK modding tools release page. Yeah. So it's very important that I should really just bring that up real quick as a visual. So that on my releases of Koikatsu modding tools, the main branch or the master branch versus the darkness branch are separated by the close component or the close MB mono behavior. So if you're updating your KK modding tools, be sure you get the right one. Now, so now that we're past that boring stuff, let's see what actual updates there are. So enable disable checkbox on the mono behaviors. So do this enable disable checkbox here on the close component. You'll see it on a bunch of other components, the studio item component, the new particle component, which we'll talk about soon, and the accessory one, and the hair one, of course. Accessory hair example. So basically there were errors in the, didn't say errors in the code. There are ways in which you could add your MB, your mono behavior to your item, and then when you go to put something into like rend hair, for example, you could end up getting a null reference error, and that null reference error would disable the component, but you wouldn't even know that the component's disabled because there would be no checkbox for it. And it could cause problems. I first noticed it causing problems in hair. It was something like the adjustable length of the hair wasn't working, I think. I think that's what the problem was. So yeah, I added code so that you can just make sure these things are all enabled, and also so that you should be able to avoid having those null reference errors that cause a problem in the first place. There's probably still ways you can get errors though, so good to have the checkbox. We got fill rend normal on all the appropriate mono behaviors. You've got there was already one on the studio item mono behavior item component, it's called, but I've added one for accessories. The one for hair fills the rend hair. The one for clothes fills rend normal 1. So like if you were to say get rid of that, and then you click fill rend normal 1, it fills in all the meshes into rend normal 1. Now if you want meshes, if you want some meshes to not be in rend normal 1, then this button doesn't really save you any work per se. But in the most scenarios of making relatively simple items, you just want everything in rend normal 1 for clothes and rend normal for accessories, not rend glass or rend alpha or whatever. And in hair, of course, you want everything in rend hair. So it's just a short little time saver button. Particle component. So mentioned a minute ago, there is a new particle component. Well, not actually new, it's in the game already, but it's new to Koikatsu modding tools. So you can put particle systems on items, but specifically for studio items, I don't know if you can use particle component anywhere outside of studio items, but specifically for studio items, like I haven't. Let me go back. I haven't tested using particle component outside of this one test case, which is a studio item, which is only particles. I don't know if you can put it on like a studio item that has like a regular mesh and then like a particle system shooting out off of the end or something, and I don't know if you can do it like that. I don't know if you can put the particle component on, say, an accessory or clothes or anything like that. So gonna need more testing for what all you can do with it. It might just be studio items, but you can put particle components on things, and specifically the particle component lets you have the color picker for the particle system. You can still have a particle system without it, but you won't have the color thing. So sample particle shower. So I made this sample particle shower. You can bring it into the scene here. So see it in the scene here as well in KKMT tools, but it's right here. You can go to the animate settings here and you can change the color of it. So I'll make like a mini guide about this, but it's very cool that you can change the color of it with the color picker. And of course, I made this originally because I feel like there's not a lot of good particle system mods, and the games ones are kind of ridiculous. Like, I specifically made it like a shower because the game's shower things are not so great for a shower scene, basically. So, whereas I feel like mine's more of a nice, gentle shower instead of like a freaking fire hose. So, yeah. What else? We got DeleteExtraBones. So, DeleteExtraBones has been in the Discord for the past 6 months, but it's now in my release of Koikatsu mining tools, and if it's accepted, of course, it'll be in the base Koikatsu mining tools. So what does DeleteExtraBones do for you? Well, I explained it a little bit in my close guide, I believe, but let's see. You import your mesh FBX for close, and you drag your FBX into the scene when you're making your item. What you're gonna have initially, if you skinned it to the body skeleton as usually is done, as opposed to like modding a existing piece of clothing that already has limited bones. So if you're going from the body, and there's like all these bones, but this is really just a glove. Scroll down to it. Glove. So this is really just a glove, which needs some bones that go from like the root of the hierarchy and go up and through the left arm and stuff. But there's a ton of things in here that are not needed by our item for making clothes. So DeleteExtraBones is you just add the DeleteExtraBones component to the root of the item, and it goes shabam, and you can see here in the log it deleted 527 extra bone. So you can also see here in the hierarchy that the list of stuff got a whole lot smaller. So that's just to delete a bunch of extra crap that your mod doesn't need. And then you would go on your merry way of adding the clothes component and blah 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 to make your clothes mod. So, all right, studio item thumbnails. This is kind of a big thing. So the studio item thumbnails. Whoops, let me delete this guy too. The studio item thumbnails were not previously something you could do. Whoops, I shouldn't have closed the game. I forgot I had to talk about this. So you couldn't previously do studio item thumbnails in Koikatsu modding tools because studio items don't normally have thumbnails. But well, because if you go to the add items, furniture, whatever, see, there's no thumbnails in here. So it's not part of the list file for studio items, like for other item types and whatnot. So, but the quick access box plugin lets you have studio item thumbnails. So we look here. I have set it up so that the example feather and the example pencil studio items here, which are example studio item 1 and 2, those now have studio items thumbnails. So because the way quick access box loads the thumbnails, they have to be in .png format. You can't assign the thumbnails to asset bundles like you normally assign thumbnails. And like I said earlier, there's no spot to reference them in the list file. So what I did was I edited the script that puts the zip mod together to include any PNG files in this Studio Thumbs folder. It has to be this exact naming. So if you're making a studio item mod and you copy the example, like I recommend you do for any kind of mod making in Koikatsu modding tools, then you'll have the appropriate named folder there already. And of course, the studio item thumbnails, just the way it works, they have to have a very specific naming format. I'll talk about it more in the studio item video, but these PNGs have to be PNGs. They just get copied right into the mod. So before this change, you would build your mod with Koikatsu modding tools, and then you would have to unzip it and then drag in. You'd have to copy in your thumbnails and then rezip it manually, like with 7-zip or whatever. And not only is that a pain, but if you update your mod at all and you rebuild it, then the thumbnails are no longer inside of it. So you have to do it again. So every time you updated your mod, you'd have to redo that. So this is a significant convenience for not having to redo that thumbnail stuff every time you make a change to your mod. So let's see. Preview scene. We now have a better preview scene, as I mentioned in the previous video, which I have put in the preview folder down here. So that's what we're in already. What does the preview scene have? It has a floor. Well, we're going to talk about why it has a floor. So if you have a mod that you are making, and where's my mods folder? Looking for my studio test folder. All right. Let's say you're just making your first studio item mod and you want to drag it into the scene. And then if you didn't have a floor, then you don't really know how big your item is. So the other thing is you can also see is something sticking through the floor easily or not. So it's a good thing to have. So the floor is approximately 4 meters by 4 meters. As we saw with the glove earlier, or we could even go, we can look at the example. Look at the example bra. That's a good thing to look at. Delete crystal here. If you look at the example bra, that's the relative size we're looking at. So if you bring in some item and it's way bigger or way smaller than the floor, then you know you got some kind of size problem. All right, we have lights in the item preview scene. That should not really come as a surprise, but let me go back to crystal, but let's go with the actual prefab here. So there's 2 lights in the scene. One is the Kara directional light. So most items are going to be on the Kara layer. So they will get lighting from the Kara directional light, and specifically most of the game shaders only respond to one directional light. So this crystal has what is it? Shader Forge main item. Thought I changed that. Maybe it was in a test. So really this is a studio item. Let's change that to main item studio. Drag that back in there. So anyways, doesn't really make a difference for this, but the lighting's coming from this directional light. It's coming at a downwards angle of 30 degrees, which you can change if you want. If you want it to be more like Maker, the light should be coming straight instead of at a downwards angle. The default in Studio is that the light's coming at some downwards angle, so that's why I made it like that. But anyways, if your item is on the map layer instead of the Kara layer, then you'll see here that it gets light from this map directional light, which is at a different angle. And since the floor is on the map layer, the floor gets a shadow from the item now, whereas before it didn't. So just some good stuff about lighting. Now for the preview stuff, I have a folder here with some more lights. So if you want to mess around with the preview scene, feel free. But like I said, the directional lights are the only things that a lot of the game shaders will respond to. It's only going to be one directional light. The most it'll be the strongest directional light in the scene. So keep that in mind when you're trying to play around with lighting stuff. All right, preview camera. So I don't remember if the camera in Koikatsu modding tools originally had all this set up, but there's this amplify color script that goes on the goes on a camera. So you put that on your preview camera. You only need one in the scene, and what it does for you is just this LUT texture, which is a studio filter. So I moved the LUTs folder into preview since it's basically for previewing your item to see colors, how it's gonna look. Because if you turn that off, this is essentially what the scene looks like without the saturation filter stuff. So pretty big difference when you're trying to make a item have specific colors. It isn't as important if you are making the item fully colorable. But if your item is not colorable, then it's a lot more important that you get your main text colors to look right ahead of time with the studio filter. So you can use the daytime one, or you can do the nighttime one, or you can do the evening one. But in general, I think daytime one's the best. I think Maker uses a different LUT. But I haven't had a lot of success acquiring it. Tried to get it at some point, but it seemed like this. What I got was like this, like low quality one. It didn't look right. Let's put it that way. It didn't look like Maker. So, maybe we'll get the Maker one in here at some point. You can find it, but for now, Studio. So you can, if you're going to make a map, let's go to my map. Don't save. So if you're going to make a map, this is without the filter in here. You see there's no cameras in the scene. So if you want to make a map, you can drag that preview camera into your scene. And now you see the scene with the filter. But when you're making a map, you need to delete that from the scene before you actually build the scene. So so that's why I made it a prefab there. And then last thing we're going to talk about is global shader settings. So the shaders use the game shaders, I should say. The game shaders use some global shader settings which are set in the options. Bring that up again. But it's stuff like the outline color, the outline size, and the shadows. Shoot. Oh. Okay. Actually, let me go with my blob instead. Blob. So I got this little blob monster thing with tentacles. And then just to have something to look at as we change some of these settings. So of course here's the studio filter stuff, but we're looking for this stuff. So changing the shadow stuff, we want like sharp shadows, smooth shadows stuff. This item doesn't have smooth mesh normals. It's got the what do they call it? The faceted mesh normals, or shade sharp in Blender. So this won't actually draw smooth shading on it. So it's, in that respect, it's a terrible example. But you can see the shadow stuff, this stuff where you change the shadow density, and change the outline. Like, basically it's black at one end and white at the other end, and the outline thickness, and you can even change the overall shadow color to make it like green tinted shadows or something if you want. All that good stuff is now here. So it's not named the same. I haven't looked into the actual programming to get it the exact same as in game, but get a guy back into the scene. Hang on. Get our blob in here. So you can see here the shadows are currently rather dark. If we want to get it more like that, and then we can the alpha is I think the alpha is basically the shadow density, but we can change the color, of course, of the shadows, and then the outline size and the line color stuff. All that good stuff we can now change here in Koikatsu modding tools to get, you know, a better, closer representation of what it should be, or what it will be in the game. I'll worry about fixing that later. So yeah. Yeah, that's it. I wanted to get some other little things in, like more examples in the examples folder, so that people have more references of how to make things. For example, we need 2D items that actually have a bone list for FK posing and dynamic bones and stuff. We need like an actual clothes example that's like accessory clothes would be nice. And so, like, basically more examples is what I want to add to Koikatsu modding tools next, which it's not really going to be that important in the long run, though, because I'm going to be working on video guides next, which will hopefully help out all these people that have been having trouble making 3D items. I made those PDF guides months and months ago, but people still have trouble following them, so hopefully the video guides will be easier to follow. So that's what's coming up next is studio item video guide, and then accessories video guide, and then hair, and then finally clothes, of course. Just same order as my PDF guides, from easiest to hardest. So yeah, what's coming up?